I've looked into the eyes of more serial killers than most people ever will, and yes, they all look normal. That's the first lie movies tell you. They're not twitchy or drooling. They're teachers, fathers, pastors, women with soft voices and calloused hands from making bread every morning. But only one ever made me wish I'd never become a detective. People say, "How do you sleep at night with all that in your head?" The truth is, I usually do. You develop a callus, the way surgeons do. You cut open enough people, eventually, you don't flinch at blood. But this case, this one still wakes me up at 3:33 a.m. every few weeks. I always check the closet now, and I never leave my blinds open anymore. It started in the fall of 2012, Denver. A woman named Jillian Price was found in her upscale apartment, eyes gouged out, lips sewn shut with twine. No signs of forced entry. Her house was spotless, except for her body in the bathtub. She was fully clothed, no sexual assault, no defensive wounds. On the mirror, in red lipstick, I listened. Creepy, sure, but it gets weirder. When we canvassed the building, the downstairs neighbor, a middle-aged man who worked nights, told us something odd. He said he always kept his TV on when he slept during the day. To drown out the voices, he said. Voices? I asked. He nodded. She'd talk to herself, but it sounded like she was answering someone. We chalked it up to mental illness, maybe schizophrenia, maybe drugs. Toxicology came back clean. She had no history of psychosis. She was a children's therapist, no enemies, not even an overdue parking ticket. We had nothing. 3 weeks later, it happened again. Different neighborhood. A man named Toby Bressler, 42, divorced, sales rep, same exact MO. Eyes gouged, lips sewn, body clean, the place spotless, on his wall smeared in black marker this time. He finally shut up. Still no signs of entry, no prints, no DNA. But Toby had an old answering machine, analog. He was one of those don't trust the cloud guys. When we played it back, there was a message from an unknown number that sent chills down my spine. A low, hoarse voice whispering, "Are you listening now?" That was the first night I had trouble sleeping. Just a whisper. No threats, but something about how quiet it was, intimate even, made my stomach twist. We pulled security footage from the street. Nothing. We questioned every neighbor. Nothing. We went deep. Phone records, bank activity, dating apps, group therapy. Nothing. These people had no overlap. Then it happened again and again. By the sixth murder, the FBI joined us. They coined the name The Listener, a serial killer with no discernible pattern, no consistent method of entry, and no victim connection except this chilling fixation on silence, speech, and being heard. Victim 7 changed things. She fought back. Her name was Amy Carroll. She lived alone, but she was paranoid, had 3 locks, cameras, a dog. When she didn't show up for work, her sister checked in. Amy was in the bathtub, like the others. Same mutilation. But she'd scratched something into the tile near the tub with what looked like her own fingernail. He makes you say things. And her living room wall had a hole punched in it. When we investigated, we found a tiny mic and receiver buried inside. He'd been listening to her for weeks. The FBI's techs went to work. They found a signal, faint and bouncing off a relay tower, but it gave us a general area, somewhere in Wheat Ridge, Colorado. Not exact, but enough to search. We went door to door. We made up a story, gas leak, survey, pest control. We just needed to get inside. One of the houses was too clean, smelled like bleach, no photos, no mail, no personal belongings. But it wasn't empty. The walls were lined with what looked like soundproof foam. And in one room, a sealed closet, we found a chair, a recorder, and a mirror. Nothing else. He wasn't there. But he'd been close. The chair was warm. In the closet, on the inside of the door, scratched with what looked like a key. They never stopped talking. Not until I opened them up. I've never felt that cold in my life, like the air was rotten, like the house hated us being there. We kept the place under surveillance for weeks. Nothing. No one returned. Whoever he was, he'd vanished again. But something about that mirror kept pulling at me. It wasn't a regular mirror. It was two-way glass. Behind it was another tiny room. Inside were stacks of recordings, dozens, all cassette tapes, labeled with names, Jillian, Toby, Amy, some names we didn't recognize, some weren't dead yet. We listened to one, it was just breathing, whispering, hours of it. Sometimes a voice, deep, gravelly male, would ask a question. Things like, do you think they'd miss you? What's your worst memory? Tell me what you're afraid they'll find out. The person would always answer. calm at first, then frantic, then sobbing, and the voice would always end with, "That's enough. I've heard you." The tapes were inadmissible. No warrant, no way to tie them directly to a suspect yet. But they confirmed what I'd suspected. This guy wasn't just killing, he was studying people, making them talk, making them confess, until he decided they'd said too much. Victim 12 was the worst. He was a talk radio host, the kind that ranted about conspiracies and politics. His body was left in the studio, same mutilations. But this time, every wall was plastered with transcriptions of his broadcasts, printed and taped in neat rows. Some lines were circled in red. One sentence was circled 7 times. You don't have to hear the truth to know it's there. It was like the killer was taking it personally, like he was angry. I started to wonder, what if this isn't random? What if it's not about the victims? What if it's about the killer himself? His pain, his past? What if we're all just playing roles in his therapy session? Then I got a package at my house, no return address. Inside, a single cassette tape, labeled Detective Barnes. That's me. My hands shook so hard I dropped it twice before I got it into an old player. At first, nothing, just hiss, static. Then my own voice, from an interrogation a year earlier, asking a suspect about his father. Then my voice from another case, shouting at a rookie. Then, my voice on the phone with my ex-wife, saying something I shouldn't have said. Private things, personal things, things I didn't know were being recorded. Then finally, his voice. "You talk a lot, Barnes, but do you ever listen?" Click. I took a leave of absence, not officially. I told them I had a flu. I barely slept. I tore apart every vent in my house, called a guy to sweep for bugs, found 2, one in the hallway, one behind the bathroom mirror. I threw up. Then I found a note in my mailbox. Handwritten. "Don't worry, I'm not ready to stop listening yet." No fingerprints, no security footage, just that one sentence. Neat cursive. I moved, got a new number, stopped using social media, grew a beard. I even changed my voice when I ordered food. Eventually the murders stopped, or maybe we just stopped connecting them. People forget, they move on. News cycles churn. Everyone wants monsters with fangs and fire, not real ones with tape recorders and cold, calloused hands. But I haven't forgotten. Because 3 nights ago, I woke up at 3:33 a.m. again. Only this time, my bedroom window was open, and on the floor, facing the mirror, was a cassette tape. No label, just a note. "Are you finally ready to talk?" I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every sound in my apartment felt amplified. The hum of the fridge, the creak of old pipes, even my own breath. At 3:33 a.m., I stared at the red LED glow of my digital clock and waited. Waited for nothing. Or for him. I don't even know anymore. In the morning, I called in sick. First time in 15 years. I told myself it was to regroup, to go through old files, to follow up on the damn photos. But the truth? I was scared. And I never admit that, even to myself. I pulled out everything I had on the Davidson case, scanned every interview transcript, every evidence photo, every coroner's report. It was like looking at the shadow of a ghost that was never supposed to exist. Every scrap of evidence felt like it was mocking me. The perfectly aligned timelines, the surgically clean kills, the absolute silence of his disappearance. Then I found it, tucked into the back of the original crime scene binder from the Oklahoma case. A Polaroid, not an evidence photo. This was candid, blurred slightly, like it had been taken in haste. It showed the exterior of a house I didn't recognize, scribbled in faint pencil on the back, "You missed this one." My stomach dropped. I reverse searched the address. It was a rural property, long abandoned, north of Tulsa. The ownership trail was dead after 2008. The photos on the county records site showed boarded windows, a collapsed porch, and an overgrown drive. It looked like the kind of place you find in a horror movie, forgotten by the world, yet somehow waiting. I shouldn't have gone alone, but I did. I drove up that afternoon, armed and wired, but alone. I told myself I was just doing recon. The house was exactly as described, rotting, skeletal, silent. Vines had wrapped around the siding like veins on a corpse. The front door gave way with a groan, and the smell inside hit me like a wall. Damp wood, mildew, and something else. Decay. Inside was worse. Not blood, not at first, just emptiness, dust and mold and the sound of flies somewhere above. But in the living room, the floorboards had been cleared, and there was a large red circle painted into the wood. In the center sat a folding chair. On it, a manila envelope, marked with my name. Inside were photographs, photos of me, not from surveillance footage or public records. These were personal, intimate. One was me asleep on my couch. Another showed me at my father's grave. Another still was from inside my kitchen, taken behind me as I made coffee. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. Then I heard it, a camera click. Somewhere upstairs. I drew my weapon, shouted, but the silence swallowed my voice. I climbed the stairs, each creaking board threatening to betray me. The hall upstairs was lined with more photos, all of me, some from years ago, some recent, some from angles that made no sense, ones that could only be taken from inside my home. The final door at the end of the hall was cracked open, darkness inside. I pushed it slowly. The room was empty, except for one thing, a tape recorder. I hit play. His voice, "I'm glad you came, detective. You've always been my favorite." I dropped it, turned, and ran. I don't remember the drive home. I locked every door, every window. I taped over the vents. I changed the locks, then changed them again. I tried to tell the department, but there was no evidence. The property was cleaned out by the time they investigated. Even the red circle was gone, floor scrubbed, no envelope, no tape, just me, raving like a lunatic, and him, watching. Somewhere, it's been 6 months now, I sleep with the lights on. I moved to a new apartment, changed my number, quit the force. But still, at 3:33 a.m., I wake up. And I know without fail, he's awake too. Waiting, because I wasn't just his final case, I was his masterpiece.